And welcome back to Inside the NFL. I'm Mark Watts, and it's time for our Players Only segment, which means I'm joined now by a pair of Super Bowl winners, Brady Poppinga from Super Bowl 45, and alongside Brady, Amani Toomer, Super Bowl winning wide receiver and Super Bowl 42. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning to you, Mark.
All right, let's get right to it. Topic number one, Vernon Davis announcing that he is going to hold out. Do holdouts like this ever work, and does Vernon Davis deserve a holdout?
I think he deserves a holdout, or excuse me, deserves a new contract,
yes,
which is a result of holding out. And I think he does because at the end of the day, the guy is more like a wide receiver anyway. And obviously, wide receivers make more money than tight ends do. And let's look at his statistics, especially where it counts. In the red zone, our guy Vernon Davis, 13 touchdowns, second amongst all tight ends. And so when you look at him in terms of his threat in the red zone and also as a safety valve to a developing, progressing quarterback like Colin Kaepernick, you got to find a way to keep the guy, A, happy, and B, I think you got to pay him for what he's worth. And being that he's more like a wide receiver, Amani, I think he's worth an upgrade in his contract.
I totally disagree. There is no way with 2 years left on his deal that he deserves another contract. When you sign the deal that he signed in 2010, it's a $35 million deal for $37 million deal, excuse me, over 5 years. You got to know that towards the back end of your deal, you're not going to be the highest paid player on your team. You're probably going to get underpaid. But when you get that $23 million guarantee that he got early on in his career, that's what the team is paying you for. And you got to understand that you're not always going to be at the highest end of the pay scale on the team, and other people get paid. That's just the way the business works. If you're talking about his statistics, his statistics have been consistently going down, not going up in terms of yards, catches. Maybe he has more touchdowns, but in terms of overall production, Vernon Davis is on the downside. I would not pay an older player that much money because, frankly, by the time his contract is up, he's not going to be worth it.
My question to you is where is a wide receiver / tight end more valuable? In the red zone or in the field?
But if he's a wide receiver, then he should have wide receiver numbers. He's not putting up wide receiver numbers. He doesn't even have a 1,000-yard season to his credit. What 1,000-yard receiver gets paid the amount of money that he gets? Almost $7 million. He's in the top 3 of the tight end pool right now in terms of pay per year, around $7 million. There's no way you should give this guy any more money.
I think you do, because at the end of the day, he's a wide receiver, and he's a heck of a threat down to the red zone.
Quick question to both of you. Do holdouts ever work?
They do work. I've seen it firsthand.
Money?
I'd never been in a situation where it worked. Actually, there has been a situation where it worked, but it was with the Hall of Famer Michael Strahan. He held out for training camp. They fined him $500,000. It took him a little while to get it back up to speed, but you're talking about a perennial Pro Bowler, a Hall of Famer. I don't know if Vernon Davis has that type of pedigree right now for him to hold out, especially an offensive player. It's going to take him a lot to get up to speed with Colin Kaepernick and the rest of the team, and there's just so many moving parts in this 49er offense. You got Michael Crabtree, Steven Jackson coming in, Stevie Johnson coming in, and you got Anquan Bolden. There's a lot of offense that has to mesh well together in terms of just getting on the field. For him to hold out, it's really hurting the entire team, and it's not a good decision for him to do that.
And for that reason, they're probably going to pay him because they realize with his absence, their chemistry probably is taking a hit a little bit, talking about the front office of the 49ers.
All right, second down, fellas. Jim Irsay is still awaiting punishment. What's taking so long, and how steep should his punishment be?
I think why it's taking so long is the root of the question. How do you punish an owner? I mean, do you fine him? Do you take draft choices away? What's the proper way to punish him? And once you figure that out, then you can go from there, because there are players in the league right now that, Ray Rice is a perfect example. He had a situation where he hasn't been completely, punished to the extent that Roger Goodell wants to under his new Player Conduct Act. So there's a lot of things floating around right now, not just the Jim Irsay suspension.
Of course, and Jim Irsay, he's an owner. He's a face of the NFL. He's not just a face of a franchise. When you're talking about a player, so we're comparing apples to oranges if we're comparing how he's going to handle talking about Roger Goodell, a player in this same situation versus an owner. And so I think that's why it's taken so long, because it's somewhat unprecedented. It's a little bit of a special kind of situation, but I think this, in terms of the punishment, being that Irsay is the face, or one of the faces of the Shield, the NFL, being that he's an owner, I think you're going to have to come harder on him in terms of discipline. than you would on a player. Just because you got to send a message top down, and it's got to start with the owners all the way down. It's got to trickle down to the players. And so I think you got to come down harder on Jim Irsay than you do on players just because of where he stands in terms of him being a face of the NFL.
But at the end of the day, Jim Irsay is one of 32 bosses of Commissioner Goodell. So how is he going to...
That's an awkward kind of situation.
It's kind of, how is he going to really effectively punish one of his bosses?
No, you're right. I mean, I think that's why it's taken so long, because I just don't think Roger Goodell really knows how to handle this situation. It is, like I said, an unprecedented special situation, but I think he's got to find a way to come down hard on him. This behavior is unacceptable.
Moving on, gentlemen, to third down. Let's talk about the Washington Redskins, specifically the Washington Redskins team name controversy.
Well,
Should they change it?
I think they should. Well, it's like this. If it's used in the right context, which I think it is today, when you ask a prospective college football player, hey, would it be an honor for you to be known as a Washington Redskin? They're going to say, heck yeah, would you like the Washington Redskins to draft you? I think they would all stand up and say, where do I sign? So when you use it in that context, I don't have a problem with it. And I think that's how it is utilized, and therefore I don't think it needs to change. Now, if it went to more of a derogatory kind of situation when you're talking about Redskins, I think obviously you have an issue, but I don't think the Redskins ever intend to have that happen. I think if anything, you look at the intent of how the Redskin name is used with the Washington organization, it's used to, one, honor. If you hear from the Washington Redskins representatives themselves, it's to honor the Native Americans. And then, like I said, the context by which it's used in terms of being known as a Washington Redskins in terms of an NFL football player pertaining to that team is an honor also. So I don't think in that particular context it's a problem.
I think it's a huge problem, because there is a California-based Native American group that took out a 60-second spot in the NBA Finals just to combat what you're saying. It's offensive to them, and if it's offensive to one tribe, I think you should be, they're Americans too, they want to be, they're prospective NFL football fans, so why try to alienate any one of your fans? I think it's a bad business decision. And because of the fact that it's getting so much attention and it's almost snowballing, that I feel like once sponsors really step up and start making it an issue, that's when the NFL is going to take a stand.
Gentlemen, breaking news. I've just been informed by my producer that Ray Rice has just been suspended for the first half of the season, the first 8 games. You just mentioned that Ray Rice has not received his full suspension. What do you gentlemen make of this development?
I think it's perfectly along the lines of what Roger Goodell has done to this point in terms of player conduct. He, had an incident with his wife. It came out. It was very much so in the public. I think it's perfect along the lines with what he's been doing and the way he's trying to clean up the NFL. I'm fully on board with it. Violence against women should not be tolerated.
But that's a lie. That's half the season.
But think about it, though, man. It's an honor to play in the NFL. It's an honor to represent the Shield. And if you do anything to compromise the integrity of that Shield, which obviously Ray Rice did, there's got to be a punishment. And especially when Roger Goodell is looking to clean that up and address that kind of behavior when you're talking about, like he said, degrading women especially. That's I think one of the biggest and most fastest growing fan bases, by the way, are women. So it's sending a terrible message to the women fan base if you're not acting in this way like Roger Goodell is. So I think it is just. I think the punishment does match up with the crime when you talk about Ray Rice being out for half the year. And again, it's an honor to play in the NFL. It's not a right. And so you got to act a certain way in order to have the ability and the opportunity to play in the league.
And you go back to the business. I mean, the NFL does a big job in trying to connect with its female viewers. They have a whole breast cancer awareness month.
Yeah.
So that is kind of where the NFL is going. And domestic violence is a big women's issue, a big issue for women. You gotta stand up strong because that's the last thing that people want.
But quickly, fellas, who steps up now for the Ravens? What does this do to their running game?
Well, ultimately, it's going to be on Joe Flacco. He's got to utilize that quick passing game that their new offensive coordinator, former Houston Texans head coach Gary Kubiak, has brought into town. So guys like Owen Daniels, a new addition, tight end. My guy Dennis Pitta, BYU guy. They're going to have to be the guys to stand up. Yeah, don't hold them against them. But anyway, they're going to have to be the guys to stand up, be the safety valve, and ultimately they're going to have to complement, or in this case, basically compensate for the lack of a running threat through a quick passing game scheme.
And they're already stacked at running back. They got Pierce. They got a lot of guys that can run the football. This is why Ray Rice came back in such better shape than he had been before, because he has guys behind him. There's nothing like push, you know, the competition to push you to move forward. He's had an all-time low season last year, and now, you know, he sees the footsteps behind him. He sees the people coming after him, and now he's in the best shape of his life. He's going to miss a couple games.
And he's going to be sitting
fresh.
down for a while.
He's definitely going to be fresh.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to Fact or Fiction. Fact or Fiction, 4 quick points here. Fact or fiction, the Eagles will regret letting Deshaun Jackson go. Fact, fiction, why?
Fiction! The reason is simple. Darren Sproles, ladies and gentlemen. Darren Sproles is essentially a hybrid wide receiver / running back. Darren Sproles is going to be that what they call the space eater. You get a guy in space, you eat him up. That's what Darren Sproles does as good as anybody. And so with the addition of Darren Sproles, I don't think they're going to be thinking much about Deshaun Jackson until they face the Washington Redskins.
I think they're going to be thinking a lot about Deshaun Jackson. I think that is absolutely fiction. Fact. Because, you know, he's had, last year in Chip Kelly's offense, the big play is an emphasis. And Deshaun Jackson led their team with 25 plus 20-yard runs. I mean, receiving receptions. Excuse me. Thank you.
You're good.
So in that sense, they're going to miss a lot. They're going to miss a lot of big plays. His ability to stretch the field which will not only be missed because the running game isn't going to be as successful when that safety is going to be creeping up a little bit closer to the box. So we're going to have to see if there's anybody on that roster that can stretch the field as well as Deshaun Jackson did.
All right, Darrelle Revis will regain status as the league's premier cornerback. Fact or fiction, Amani?
It's definitely fact, because Greg Schiano, as we all know, I don't know how he was not able to get the best out of Darrelle Revis. I'll bet my bottom dollar that Bill Belichick is going to be able to find a way to get the best corner back at the elite status.
I agree with you. You know what? Bill Belichick, he does more with less than any other coach in the NFL. And my golly, he's going to have one of the best cornerbacks now that he's going to be able to coach up, put in ideal situations to thrive. I think Darrelle Revis returns to his dominant form.
Moving on to Revis's former team, Geno Smith will win the Jets' starting QB job. Fact, fiction, why?
It's a fact, but I don't even think it's a competition. I think it's already been predetermined that Geno Smith is the guy. He's the guy that ultimately Rex Ryan, or Idzik, more specifically Idzik, the general manager of the New York Jets, want him to be the face of the franchise. And they're going to want to also see, hey, how much has this guy improved from last year? Because obviously the New York Jets, they were rolling at the end of the year. They're going to want to see if that kind of momentum can continue into this next year. And just so everybody knows, and Amani, you know this, when you talk about a development of a player,
yes,
in all of their years that they play, when is the greatest amount of improvement?
Between the first year and the second year.
And that's why I think Geno Smith's going to be playing, because they're going to see how big is this improvement for Geno Smith. So I think he's going to be the opening day starter.
And finally, I know we could not do a segment without mentioning the Dallas Cowboys. Fact or fiction, the Dallas Cowboys will once again finish 8-8. Amani.
Fiction, because all the Dallas Cowboys did this offseason was get worse. They lost Sean Lee to an injury. They lost DeMarcus Ware. They lost James Hatcher, their most productive pass rusher last year. They didn't replace him with anybody of note. And to continue to ask Tony Romo to be this entire offense, the entire team, is just not realistic. Last year, they couldn't stop anybody, and all they did on defense is get worse. They're going to be worse than 8-8.
I agree. They're going to be worse. DeMarcus Ware, Jason Hatcher were sent out the door.
Less than 8-8 then.
Yeah, less than 8-8. And they didn't replace those guys. They brought, obviously, Henry Melton in to try to compensate. But come on, Henry Melton doesn't compensate for the loss of both DeMarcus Ware and Jason Hatcher. So for that reason, I'm with you. They're going to struggle to win 7 games. So 8-8, I don't think it's going to be even a possibility.
All right, good stuff. He's Brady. He's Amani. For a bunch of advanced broadcast boot campers, you guys did very, very well. We'll be back with more Inside the NFL as we roll on here in Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
Hey, appreciate it, Chip. I'm here with Super Bowl champion Michael Robinson, and we're going to touch on some topics about the Seattle Seahawks. And obviously the big hot-button topic right now is about Marshawn Lynch. Is he going to retire? Does he come back? And now, Michael, you got a couple backups. You got Kristen Michael, Robert Turbin, who's there to step in case Marshawn Lynch, in fact, does retire. How well can those two guys make up for the absence of Marshawn Lynch?
I think those two guys are great talents. but I really do think Marshawn Lynch is one of the 3 irreplaceable backs in the National Football League. Those guys are going to try to replace him, but he's just irreplaceable. He's beast mode.
So if, in fact, those 2 guys can't come in and pick up the slack, what then did the Seattle Seahawks have to do in order to compensate for the absence of Marshawn Lynch?
In my opinion, they're just going to have to use the ability of Russell Wilson to run the ball with the read option, quarterback keepers, and things like that. They're going to have to rely on him throwing the ball a lot more. Percy Harvin is also on that offense. He's also a guy that can run the ball out of the backfield. So I think they'll be okay. I think, you know, they'll be able to get their rushing yardage, but the hard 4-minute offense runs, as you know, I don't think it'll be there because Marshawn Lynch, again, he grinds it out at the end of the game.
So obviously if Marshawn Lynch decides to hang him up, he's 1, going to be greatly missed, and 2, it looks like that Russell Wilson, Percy Harvin, they're going to be a lot more active with the running game. We'll send it back up to you, Chip. As one door of opportunity closes, another door opens. Just ask DeMarcus Ware. After becoming the all-time sack leader for the Dallas Cowboys, DeMarcus was shown the door and released by the only team he has played for in his 9-year career. Right after being released by the Dallas Cowboys, the ideal opportunity presented itself that would allow DeMarcus to add to his already gaudy sack totals by signing with a legitimate Super Bowl contender in the Denver Broncos. DeMarcus will enjoy the luxury of playing alongside one of the most dangerous pass rushers in the game in Von Miller, and playing with a high-powered offense led by Peyton Manning that makes playing from a lead a weekly ritual. Not only will he face more one-on-one blocks than he's ever seen in his career, but he will also be able to pin his ears back and rush the passer more than ever. Just like DeMarcus has seen, having one door shut in your face isn't as bad as it may seem, being that another door with greater opportunities behind it has just opened. I'm Brady Poppinga.
Dallas, of course, always busy, always fast-moving. And here tonight in this NFC East Championship game, the Dallas Cowboys' comeback has not been fast-moving. The 3 field goals have gotten them back within a point now here late in the 3rd. And DeMarco Murray going to get himself about a yard.
And here comes Kendricks, the heat-seeking missile from the middle there, number 95. Essentially coming across the whole other side of the formation. You can see him right here, scraping over the top. He got his defensive lineman in front of him, keeping him clean. All he's got to do is make the tackle, right? No, that's a pretty tough tackle to make on DeMarco Murray. As we've seen already, DeMarco Murray is a tough guy to bring down, and Kendricks, beautiful tackle. And a nice job of scraping on the top of his defensive lineman. You see Sean Lee looking at great linebacking play. Kendricks wanting to be out there in the mix.
Injury's such a big part of the early career of Lee. On 2nd down, Orton going for it all. And Williams couldn't quite get there. It'll bring up 3rd down.
And you look at Kyle Orton, and a lot of people would assume, hey, you know what, he's the backup quarterback. You know what, Jason Garrett and the offensive staff, they're going to pare down the game plan. But I'll tell you what, they're not going to do that with Kyle Orton. The guy has obviously a lot of experience as a backup quarterback. But more importantly, the guy is looked at in a lot of ways as a starter, and that's why they brought him in. You see, that's essentially where they're looking in terms of the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles, is they eliminate the threat of Des Bryant, and that's what opens up opportunities for other wideouts on the offense of the Dallas Cowboys.
3rd down and 9 from the 31. Blitz coming. And Witten trying to break a tackle. Brandon Graham won't let him go.
And that's the design of the blitz right there. Because there's 2 things you could do on 3rd down. You can either drop back into coverage and just sort of wait for the quarterback to throw it, or you can put the quarterback on the spot and make him get rid of the ball before his receivers can make the 1st down yardage marker. And that's exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles defense did. They brought the heat, and they made it to where Kyle Orton had to throw it immediately out to Jason Witten before obviously he can even get close to getting a 1st down.
Philadelphia gets the ball back now late in the 3rd. And there's Jackson trying to make something happen. Out across the 45-yard line. Good field position out to the 47. So Jason Garrett trying to figure out a way to win a division title.
And I'll tell you, Jason Garrett, this isn't new to him to see a backup quarterback out on the field. Jason Garrett himself was one heck of a backup quarterback in his time, a backup to Troy Aikman. And so he understands a little bit of what Kyle Orton's going through.
You see how many close games there have been. You wonder why that hair is not a little bit more gray.
And that's because he's so relaxed. I played for the guy, and I'll tell you what, he's even keeled, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. And I think that's a nice mentality to have as, obviously, a coach.
Here's McCoy trying to get a running rhythm, and Dallas has swarmed to him all night long.
And that's the name of this defense. That's what the Dallas Cowboys defense, I know they've had their struggles, and I know it's a new system. And you see Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett, they're looking down. Obviously, Jerry Jones is biting on his nails wanting to get into the playoffs. But the point is that's the area that they always emphasize in this defense, and that's pursuing the ball.
Right back to the ground. And McCoy, first down yardage inside the 40-yard line.
And you're going to see LeSean McCoy here at the end of the run. Oh, my goodness. This is the one trait in a running back that you love, and that is he utilizes his blockers. You're going to see LeSean McCoy come around the edge here. He loves working out in space, but you're going to see how he sets up the block, and he's patient, and he uses the block. I mean, it sounds like it should be common knowledge, but a lot of guys don't do that, and that's what makes LeSean McCoy so good.
Right back to the well again, and why not? Taking it to the outside this time, and that's another near first down. We'll see where they spot the football.
And that's one thing about Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, as an offensive play caller, if he sees something working, he's going to continue to go at it until the defense can show that they're going to stop it. And right now, LeSean McCoy and that Philadelphia offensive line are running the ball down the throats of the Dallas Cowboys. And until the Dallas Cowboys can prove that they're going to be able to somehow control this running game, Chip Kelly's going to continue to go to the well, ladies and gentlemen.
So the Eagles on the move, trying to pad that 1-point lead. Plenty of time again for Foles. And once again, his tight end is open. That's Brent Selleck. First down, goal to go as he gets it inside the 10.
And if you ask me right now who the MVP of this game is, or at least the most valuable position group, it's the offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles. And you're going to see Peters and Mathis taken out, pretty much eliminating DeMarcus Ware, but Nick Foles has had time to sit in the pocket, and that obviously allows his wide receivers like Selleck, who's a tight end, to find openings in the defense, and that's what the susceptibility of this type of defense is, since it's a zone defense, is that you're going to have some dead space.
First down and goal from the 6. It's Smith looking to throw back. Was it there? Now the end zone, incomplete. Gadget play on first down and goal, and Smith can't find the open receiver.
Smith, the former quarterback at Missouri, he's been utilized in this fashion a number of times. He played up in Buffalo, and that's one thing as a defense. When you see Smith motioning into the backfield, you have to understand it potentially could be a double reverse pass or one of these kind of handoff passes. And you see there was some options. You know, he hasn't played quarterback in a while, so he's a little rusty. But that is always an option when Smith is on the field if you're a defender for the Dallas Cowboys.
Gutty roll of the dice on first down. Now back to the more conventional, and Foles throws incomplete.
And as you see here, as the field gets shorter, as it condenses, as the offense is in the red zone, that's where decision-making for the quarterbacks, as you're going to see here, become way more quicker. He's got to get the ball out immediately. That little pump fake there is what ultimately led to his demise. He, like I said, down in the red zone, especially when you're on the 11-yard line going in, decisions out of the pocket have to be immediate and quick.
Third down, they're coming for him, and the throw is there. Jackson can't quite get in. Stopped just short of the goal line.
The ruling on the field is the runner is short of the goal line. Fourth down.
And hey, I got to give some props here to Orlando Scandrick. Look at him, fighting, scratch, crawling. One thing you never want to do is obviously fall backwards on the goal line, and that's what he did there. As he stuck his foot in the ground and was able to push Deshaun Jackson out of the end zone.
The Eagles look like they're going for it, and now you've got a flag on the play. They may have moved.
Yeah, you get down to that goal line situation, everybody gets all amped up, all excited, and sometimes you forget what the snap count is, or if you're on the defensive side, you jump off before the ball snaps. So we'll see where they go with
Prior to any fouls, Dallas has called their first timeout of the half. It will be a 30-second timeout. With the game clock operator, please put 38 seconds on the clock. 38 seconds on the game clock, please.
Chip Kelly clearly wanted to run that football, and Jason Garrett wasn't ready, calling for a key timeout. Big piece of the history of the Dallas Cowboys. And Dallas's defense now trying to step up to the task here late in this third quarter, 4th down and goal, and Chip Kelly has decided to go for it.
That's the riverboat gambler that Chip Kelly is. I mean, this guy, he thinks outside the box in every aspect of the game. This is going to be no different. This guy, and obviously he's looking to extend the lead, get the Dallas Cowboys even further behind.
Eagles, one of the best in the National Football League, on 4th and 1. Huge spot in the game. Foles trying to pound his way in, and he didn't get there. Huge stop for the Dallas Cowboys.
What a great stop by Dallas. But Chip Kelly, I just have to disagree with this play calling here. I mean, this is a time when you rely on the guy who got you here. And I think that's ultimately LeSean McCoy. I don't like this idea of going with Nick Foles, but you're going to see the surge in the middle there by the Dallas Cowboys defense, led by number 54, Holloman, who's replacing Sean Lee. You can see him jump over the defensive line to, or actually Bruce Carter, 54 Bruce Carter, jumping over the defensive and offensive line there to stymie Nick Foles and not allow him to get into the end zone. But again, I question the decision to go with Nick Foles running the ball instead of your main guy, LeSean McCoy.
Carter was locked in on Foles from the moment that ball was snapped, and they win the hand-to-hand combat. Foles trying to extend the ball over the goal line, but the Dallas defense holds. Could this be a turning point in this ball game as we've got a 1-point game here late in the third?